A single mistranslated digit led to the USS Greyback being lost for 75 years. Think about that for a second. One tiny mistake, one number written down wrong, and an entire submarine vanished from history. How does something so small spiral into something so huge? It's like a single misplaced brick causing a whole wall to crumble. But this wasn't just any wall. This was a submarine, a crew, a mission swallowed by the Pacific because someone, somewhere, got a single digit wrong. And for decades, no one even knew where to look. How does that happen? How does one error erase 75 years of answers? That's the question that haunts this story. Meet Utaka Iwasaki, a quiet but determined researcher from Japan who spent years digging through old documents and forgotten archives. He wasn't just looking for facts, he was on a mission to set the record straight. You see, history isn't always written by the winners. Sometimes it's written by whoever had the loudest voice at the time. And Utaka knew there were stories that had been buried, overlooked, or just plain ignored. His work focused on a critical period in Asian history, a time when power shifted and alliances formed in ways that textbooks had simplified or even misrepresented. By uncovering letters, diaries, and official records that had been gathering dust for centuries, Utaka revealed a more complex, more human side of history. His findings didn't just add footnotes to the past, they changed how we understand entire chapters of it. Before Utaka, many believed certain events were inevitable, the result of grand forces beyond anyone's control. But his research showed that individuals, real people with doubts, ambitions, and mistakes, shaped outcomes in ways no one had realized. It wasn't just about correcting dates or names, it was about restoring the nuance, the uncertainty, and the very human struggles that had been smoothed over by time. Thanks to Utaka, historians now approach this era with fresh eyes, asking better questions and recognizing that history isn't just a series of facts. It's a living, breathing story that's still being uncovered. And who knows, there might be more out there, waiting for someone just as patient and thorough as Utaka to bring it to light. The USS Greyback was a beast of the deep, a marvel of engineering that cut through the water like a knife. Stretching over 300 feet long and displacing more than 2,000 tons when submerged, she was built for stealth and power. Her sleek, streamlined hull could dive to depths that would crush lesser vessels, and her advanced sonar systems let her hear a pin drop miles away. Armed to the teeth, the Grayback carried a deadly arsenal. She packed 24 torpedoes, enough to turn an enemy fleet into scrap metal, and her deck gun could rain fire on surface targets with terrifying precision. But it wasn't just her firepower that made her feared. It was her speed. With powerful diesel engines and electric motors, she could outrun most threats, slipping away into the dark before they even knew she was there. Designed for endurance, she could stay submerged for days, her crew living and fighting in the tight confines of her steel belly. Every inch of her was built for one purpose: to hunt, to strike, and to vanish without a trace. The Grayback wasn't just a submarine, she was a predator, a silent guardian of the deep, and a testament to the ingenuity of those who built her. Grayback wasn't just another submarine in the fleet, it was a legend. Over the course of its service, it sent 21 enemy ships to the bottom, racking up a staggering 140,000 tons of sunk tonnage. That's not just impressive, it's historic. When you look at the numbers, Grayback stands tall among American submarines, ranking second only to the famed Tang in total tonnage sunk. Every mission was a testament to its crew's skill and the boat's relentless efficiency. It didn't just hunt, it dominated, carving its name into naval history with every torpedo fired and every enemy vessel lost to the depths. The USS Greyback wasn't just another submarine in the fleet, it was a legend, and the awards it earned proved it. Over its years of service, the Grayback racked up an impressive list of commendations, each one a testament to the bravery and skill of its crew. Among the most notable were its battle stars awarded for participation in major combat operations. Each star represented a battle or campaign where the Grayback and its crew faced down the enemy, often under the most dangerous conditions imaginable. These weren't just symbols, they were hard-earned marks of honor, showing the world that this submarine had been in the thick of the fight and come out on top. But the battle stars were just part of the story. The Grayback also received Navy unit commendations, which recognized outstanding heroism or exceptionally meritorious service. These weren't handed out lightly. They were reserved for units that went above and beyond, performing with such distinction that they set the standard for the entire fleet. For the Grayback, these commendations were proof of its crew's dedication, their ability to work as a single, unstoppable force, even when the odds were stacked against them. Together, these awards painted a picture of a submarine that didn't just meet expectations, it shattered them. The Grayback wasn't just a vessel, it was a symbol of what could be achieved when courage, skill, and determination came together. And for those who served on her, these honors weren't just medals or ribbons. They were a reminder of the battles they'd fought, the lives they'd saved, and the legacy they'd built. The waters of the South China Sea were treacherous enough on their own, but for the Japanese commanders during the war, there was something far worse lurking beneath the waves: Grayback. They called him the Ghost of the South China Sea, and the name alone was enough to send a chill down the spine of even the most hardened sailors. Grayback wasn't just another submarine, he was a legend, a shadow that struck without warning and vanished just as quickly. The Japanese never knew where he'd hit next, only that when he did, their ships would be sent to the bottom before they could even sound the alarm. He moved like a phantom, slipping through their patrols, dodging depth charges, and leaving destruction in his wake. Stories spread among the enemy ranks, tales of convoys that disappeared in the night, of ships that were there one moment and gone the next. The Japanese commanders spoke of him in hushed tones, their voices tight with fear. They respected him not just as an adversary, but as something almost supernatural. Some even swore he could read their minds, anticipating their every move before they made it. The fear Grayback inspired wasn't just about the losses he inflicted, it was the way he did it. There was no pattern, no predictable route, just the cold certainty that if he was out there, you were already in danger. The Ghost of the South China Sea didn't just sink ships, he haunted the dreams of those who dared to sail those waters, and for the Japanese, that was a terror they couldn't shake. The storm raged outside the tiny medical hut, rain pounding against the flimsy walls like an angry drumbeat. Inside, pharmacist's mate Harry Robbie wiped sweat from his brow, his hands steady despite the chaos around him. The young Marine on the table was pale, his breathing shallow, his abdomen rigid with pain. An appendectomy wasn't supposed to be done like this, not without a proper operating room, not without a surgeon, not with just a few basic tools and a prayer. But there was no choice. The nearest hospital was hours away and the man wouldn't last that long. Harry had read about the procedure in a medical manual, but reading and doing were two very different things. He sterilized his instruments as best he could, boiling them in a makeshift setup, his mind racing through each step. No anesthesia, just a local numbing agent and sheer willpower from the patient. With a deep breath, Harry made the incision, his fingers working carefully, methodically. The light was dim, flickering from a single lantern, but he didn't falter. He tied off the inflamed appendix with suture thread, his hands moving with a precision that belied the crudeness of the conditions. Every second counted. Every movement had to be exact. When it was over, when the last stitch was in place, Harry exhaled, his shoulders slumping just a little. The Marine was alive. Against all odds, against every reasonable expectation, he had done it. There was no fanfare, no grand celebration, just the quiet satisfaction of knowing he had saved a life when no one else could. And in that moment, Harry Roby wasn't just a pharmacist's mate. He was a hero. Commander John A. Moore knew the stakes were high. 6 American airmen were stranded behind enemy lines, their lives hanging by a thread. The mission was clear: get in, get 'em out, and leave no one behind. As he briefed his team, his voice was steady, his resolve unshaken. "We're not just pulling these men out of harm's way," he said. "We're bringing them home." The journey was treacherous, the terrain was unforgiving, and the enemy was everywhere. But Moore led with precision, his instincts sharp as a blade. When the first shots rang out, he didn't flinch. Instead, he rallied his men, his voice cutting through the chaos. "Stay tight, stay sharp, we move as one." One by one, they found the airmen, exhausted, battered, but alive. Each rescue was a victory, but Moore knew they weren't safe yet. The enemy was closing in and time was running out. With the last airman secured, he made the call. "We're not leaving until every man is accounted for," he declared, his words carrying the weight of his unbreakable will. Under his command, the team fought their way back, every step a testament to their training and their leader's unwavering courage. When they finally reached safety, the airmen didn't just thank him, they looked at him with something deeper, the kind of respect earned only in the fires of battle. Moore had done more than save lives that day. He had shown what true leadership looked like. The final report of the Grayback was a grim account of a ship pushed too far, too fast. Captained by a man known for his reckless ambition, the vessel had been loaded beyond its limits, its hull groaning under the weight of cargo meant for safer, slower ships. The storm that struck off the coast of Newfoundland was no surprise to seasoned sailors, but the Grayback, already strained, had no chance. Waves tore through its weakened seams, and within hours it was gone, swallowed by the same sea it had defied for years. 80 souls were lost that night, not just sailors, but fathers, brothers, sons, men who had kissed their wives goodbye, promising to return with wages that would feed their families for months. The news reached the docks before dawn, carried by the few survivors who clung to wreckage until rescue came. Their stories spread like wildfire, each one more harrowing than the last. Mothers collapsed in their kitchens, wives clutched their children tighter, and fathers stared blankly at the horizon, as if willing the ship to reappear. The families left behind were shattered. Some had nothing but the clothes on their backs, their futures stolen by the greed of men who had sent the Grayback out knowing the risks. The town held a memorial, but what good were prayers when the sea had already claimed what it wanted? The Grayback's sinking wasn't just a tragedy, it was a warning, one that would echo in the hollowed-out homes of those who waited in vain for their loved ones to come home. Tim Taylor's team had spent years searching the depths, but nothing could have prepared them for the moment they found her. There, resting on the ocean floor, was the wreck of the USS Greyback, lost since World War II. The discovery sent ripples through the naval community, and soon the U.S. Navy stepped in to confirm it. After decades of uncertainty, the site was officially recognized as a war grave, a final resting place for the brave souls who went down with her. For the families of those lost, the news brought a bittersweet sense of closure. Some had spent their whole lives wondering, passing down stories of fathers, brothers, and sons who never came home. Now they had an answer. The Grayback was found, and with it a piece of their history was finally laid to rest. It wasn't just a shipwreck, it was a reminder of sacrifice, of lives cut short, and of a debt that could never truly be repaid. But at least now they knew. You ever think about how much we rely on the stories we tell? Not just the big ones, the ones carved into monuments or printed in textbooks, but the little ones too. The names scribbled in old ledgers, the dates stamped on yellowed letters, the notes tucked into the margins of a diary. Those tiny, precise details are what keep history from slipping away. Imagine if someone had written down the wrong year for the signing of the Declaration of Independence, or if a clerk had misrecorded the names of the passengers on the Mayflower. Suddenly, the whole story shifts. The threads start to unravel. That's why accuracy matters, not just for the sake of getting it right, but because those records are the anchors. They hold the past in place so we don't lose it to time or forgetfulness. And it's not just about the grand events. Think about your own family. Maybe your great-grandmother's name was spelled wrong on an old census record, and now no one can trace her side of the family. Or maybe a town's history gets rewritten because someone misremembered a date. those little mistakes, they add up. They change what we know, what we think we know, and what we pass down. So next time you see a dusty old book of records or a faded photograph with a name scribbled on the back, remember, someone took the time to get it right. And because they did, we still have a piece of the past to hold on to. That's the power of accurate records. They're not just numbers or names. They're the difference between remembering and forgetting.